Good morning, Trucker Todd here. Welcome to 2020. Hope everybody had a good Christmas and a pretty good New Year last night. Today I just wanted to do something kind of lighthearted and give you my predictions for 2020. I think most of us could agree 2019 was a tough year for a lot of trucking companies and for a lot of people. It definitely wasn't one of my favorite years. Before we do that though, I want to remind everybody, make sure that you've liked and subscribed and click that little bell notification so that when I put a new video out, you'll get a little notification and you can see what I'm talking about or experiencing on that day. Now let's jump right into this. It's not going to be long. I'm going to make this kind of short. Let me say this before we get started. Regardless of the economy, good, bad, or indifferent, everyone needs to live under their means right now. What do I mean by that? Don't be living your life on credit, spending every penny you make. Everybody needs to be doing their best to put back some money for hard times, because eventually they're coming. Maybe it's in 2020, maybe it's 2021, maybe it's 2051. Whenever it is, you need to have a little money saved back. I've mentioned before in other videos, I don't know if you've seen them or not, I went to an orientation with a guy. He gives a great orientation. It wasn't at Roadrunner, it was at another company. And he mentioned putting $25 a week back out of every check. And he said that way if a hard time hits, you've got a little money saved up. And one guy stood up in the orientation. He's like, I'm $4,000 in debt. How am I going to put $25 a week back? And he basically told him, he said, well, if you're that far in debt, $25 isn't going to matter to your creditors that much. Put $25 back, and at some point in time, you'll be in a better place than you are right now. So, especially with the way 2019 went for a lot of trucking companies, a lot of guys found themselves stranded at different locations across the country. I'm going to say you want to have a bare minimum of $300 set aside emergency fund in case you get stranded far from home with your trucking company. And the reason is that gives you a little money to rent a car, gas to get home, things like that. And if they cheat you out of your last paycheck, you've at least got enough to get home and start over again. So I definitely would say pinch your pennies, stretch your dollars, and save where you can. Now, let's talk about, and we're going to talk about Roadrunner too. I'm going to tell you my predictions for them closer to the end of this video. But let's talk about other trucking companies for a second. If you are working for a company like, well, HVH when they was around, Falcon when they was around, that is primarily owned by an investment company, that should make you a little nervous. Now, before anybody puts it in the comments, Roadrunner has a 20%, well, a company that owns 20% of them, that's an investment company. That's not the majority. The family still has the majority. So I'm not talking about Roadrunner in this situation. I am talking about companies like Falcon, HVH, some of those that went under this past year. If you're working for a small or medium-sized company that relies solely on broker loads, they don't have any of their own freight, or their own contracts, that should be cause for alarm. Now, I would tell everybody, regardless of who you work for, if you notice that, or well, let me say it this way. Regardless of where you work, you should always have a backup plan. No company is too big to fail. So you need to know, all right, if my company went under, what would I do next? And I've gave that some thought. I don't anticipate Roadrunner going under. I do expect some changes at Roadrunner, and I'll tell you what I think those will be. Like I say, we'll get to that. But if you're working for a company that has, say, 20 or 50 trucks, and they're relying solely on broker loads. That's not a good situation, and I would definitely have a couple of companies in the back of my mind that if I went under, I'd know where to go next, and you should too. So keep that in mind. Mega carriers. The mega carriers are racing each other to the bottom. And there's a lot to that. They're doing it mainly in freight rates. They're undercutting, and we've already seen some effects of that. Swift had to close a terminal in York, Pennsylvania, which for many years a lot of us thought Swift was bulletproof, that nothing could happen to them. So if they have to lay people off and close the terminal, it could certainly happen to anybody. In 2020, I expect at least a few mega carriers to either go under or merge with other companies, kind of like Swift and Knight did. Knight took over Swift, basically. So look for that too. Now, in February, this is not only a prediction, but something that's coming to pass. The government is going to require everyone getting a CDL in February, federal government is, to go to a truck driving school. And it's got to be a certified place. Now, what does this mean? Well, it's going to mean several things. For one thing, a lot of the mom and pop places that are probably really teaching well are going to go under. It also means that you're going to have basically the formation of mega trucking schools, I'm sure, franchise trucking schools. And anytime the government mandates something, you're going to see a cost increase because it's mandated. We saw that in healthcare. We saw it, I believe it was back in the 80s when the government required you to get car insurance. Rates always go up. So if you don't have your CDL and you're thinking about getting it, get it quickly, because it's about to get a lot more expensive, not only for the schools, but probably for the license itself. And I would say the quality of training is going to go down in that process too. Now, like I say, these are my predictions. I could be wrong. We'll see. As for the trucking recession, I don't think it's over yet. I've kind of hinted to that earlier in this video already. I do think there's going to be some more companies close. I do think it'll be the small to mid-sized companies mostly that require a lot of broker freight. I would recommend going with either an LTL style carrier or a carrier where you got a dedicated account or a private fleet. I wouldn't recommend Walmart, and I can do a whole separate video on that if you want. But I would find, for example, I used to work for a company that was leased to the guys that do groceries for Albertsons and United supermarkets. And I would say if you're doing something like that, it's a pretty safe place to stay. And if you're not doing that, that might be something you want to look into. And again, like I said, if you don't have your CDL, get it as quickly as possible before all this stuff takes effect. I do expect the driver shortage to continue. The pay's good to be a truck driver, but it's not where it needs to be for the sacrifices you make to be away from your family. And so I do think the shortage will continue. Like it or not, most people want to be home every day or at least every week. And so I think in the, especially in the OTR market, the over-the-road market, there's going to continue to be a driver shortage. And now let's talk about Roadrunner Freight. And let me say this before I talk about them. I don't have any inside knowledge. I haven't talked to anybody in upper management about this video or what I was going to say or do. So these opinions are mine and mine alone, based on what I've read in articles and on the internet. And this is meant to be a lighthearted deal. I know it's been kind of negative so far, but this is my take on Roadrunner for the new year. I don't anticipate any raises. We've already signed our new 2020 contract, so for them to give us a raise at this point, they'd have to send out an addendum or a new contract, and I don't anticipate that. I do anticipate strong freight. They're running my wheels off. I run just as hard as I want to. I do think the LTL division will stay strong and continue to grow. Now, having said that, the other divisions of Roadrunner, I do anticipate they may sell off or reduce the size of some of their other departments. I do think they want to focus on LTL a lot, and I read an article where the CEO said they're trying to lighten their assets in other divisions. So I'm not giving away any company secrets or anything. I think they really want to go in the LTL direction, and as I stated earlier in this video, I think that's a wise move on their part. I do figure that Roadrunner has more things coming down the pike, not necessarily raises, but I do think that they're going to continue to grow and improve, especially in their LTL division. And as I stated in a previous video recently, I'm starting to get really happy here. I'm enjoying working here, and I hope it's going to continue for a long time. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I just woke up, and that's why my brain's a little cloudy. I'm a little hungry. I'm going to go eat breakfast, and then I'm headed to Orlando, Florida, and I'm going to spend a couple of days down there. So who knows, when I get to Orlando, I may pop out another video for you guys. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. We grew a lot on this channel in 2019, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in 2020. As always, in the comment section, I'll have my email address. Feel free to leave me a comment. I try to respond to all of them if I can. Or my email is also there if you have more information, or more questions about working at Roadrunner Freight or anything like that. Please feel free to email me, and I'll get you in contact with somebody that can answer all your questions. So until next time, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.